turning on. And me. Boom, there we go. I got it. Okay, that was tougher than I thought. I switched over to the studio mode again, and it's always a big challenge for me because you have to click two buttons instead of one. But we're here. Aaron King, Photog Adventures. Thank you guys for joining me on Wednesday. It's Milky Way Wednesday. Welcome everybody who's joining me from the chat room. Wow, you guys have been talking about a lot as it's been starting. Fantastic. Hey, the stream is bad according to YouTube, so hopefully everything's going well. We got 25 of you on right now. Thanks for joining me tonight. Every Wednesday, except for the last 3, we have a Milky Way Wednesday, and we're stoked to be back, even if it is fleeting. It's very fleeting, and I'm only back for 1 week. However, there is a chance that I will be actually able to feature something from the Nightscaper conference for Milky Way Wednesday. It's not next week. Next week we'll be out on our Southern Utah workshop, and then the following Wednesday will be after. It's actually after. So yes, in 2 Wednesdays, I'm back. In 2 Wednesdays, this is back. We'll be back for Milky Way Wednesday live again, but next Wednesday, I'll be on the road, and it will not either, nothing will be there, or there won't be a live. And so hopefully I can get some content created that can go out there on schedule, but most likely there won't be anything because I have basically a day left before we've got to go. So hey everybody, welcome in. It has been a long time. Hiya, ma. I've been sick, and I'm trying to pretend that I'm not sick right now, so hopefully it doesn't sound too weird. My voice, I can feel it a little off. Hopefully you guys aren't noticing it, and hopefully my eyes and everything all look like I'm perfectly healthy, and I haven't been sleeping on a couch every day trying to fight off a head cold, where the pressure in this side of my head is still there. When I was flying, you go up, not so bad, but when the pressure is you're going down and landing, man, this was torture, as it was pushing the cranium all the way out as far as it could. I felt like there was going to be a bone break right in the front of my forehead as I was coming down. I landed in Copenhagen, went up, landed in Oakland, came up, landed in Las Vegas, and finally was at my destination and drove. So it was a terrible time for a head cold, terrible time for all of that, but I'm stoked to be hanging out with you guys again, checking the feed, making sure that you got all the chat. I look great enough? Awesome. Thanks, Veronica. I'm glad. I'm just excited to be back talking about Milky Way stuff with you Milky Way nerds, because it has been a long time and I've been doing all landscape photography. In fact, I feel like sharing just a little bit, even though it's not, appropriate for Milky Way stuff. But here's a little side shot of quick clips of what we have experienced. I mean, Faroe Islands, ooh, that's really loud. Let me turn that down. This is Faroe Islands, and man, what a glorious sight, chasing the light. Go where the clouds will actually reveal some gaps, and then the light as it reflects in the water, as it hits and makes everything golden. Typically we have days like this where there's nothing but gray skies, just gray skies. Look at it big, because this is something to appreciate. There's Drew Armstrong down there. Kaveh was down below. Brendan talking about stuff as I show you just the hike that we did. Faroe Islands is amazing. We have 4 more slots. Actually, tonight joining me, I believe Rhonda will show up, but I don't know if she has shown up already, but Kathy's already here. She'll be with us out here in Faroe Islands next September. And it's glorious. It's absolutely glorious. And despite how amazing the sunset's looking, Simon's going the other direction. He's seeing some color and some excitement over there. So just cool experience. It made us be very busy and very gone for the last 3 weeks. We had the CP retreat, the Create Photography retreat, where we taught Milky Way photography to a bunch of people that we've never met before, who are now firm, fast friends for life. And so that was a blast. Really, really loved it. We're going to be sharing it on the podcast and telling stories of that. But if you guys know Photog Adventures at all, I need to tell you, here on the YouTube channel, we do YouTube content, and we have a podcast every Wednesday. In fact, I have 2 edits right now that are almost done that are going out tonight. And we have a new podcast every Wednesday. Check it out on iTunes, Stitcher, Google, wherever you look for podcasts. If you're sitting next to an Alexa and you want to say, hey, Alexa, play the Photog Adventures podcast, she will not understand you. You have to say it. Let's see. My Alexa over there is listening right now. Alexa. Yes, I know. You don't know what I'm saying right now. Alexa, play the Photog Adventures podcast. She only, she only understands photog, not photog, photog. So if you say Photog Adventures podcast, you will find it. And so now she's doing it right now behind me, and I gotta turn it off. Alexa, stop. Okay, so now if you guys ever want to catch up with Photog Adventures, do it on the podcast, do it on our Facebook page at Photog Adventures, or facebook.com/Photog Adventures, or photogadventures.com. And if you want to join us for the Faroe Islands workshop, check it out, photogadventures.com/workshop. So let's get going. Let's learn some Milky Way nerdy stuff. And Rhonda's there. Hey, so Rhonda is going to be here tonight, and she's joining us. You're the man. Eli, I hope you were talking to me. Oh, he was probably, because Nevada Xtube said Aaron King of the Road is live. Today, Andy called me King of Utah, too, so I'll take both titles. Aaron King. When I was a kid, they read the role King Aaron, and they'd be like, King Aaron, are you present? And I loved it. I almost wanted to stand up and say, yes, I am here. King Aaron is here. So let's do this Milky Way. You guys have experienced the getting out there and finding out that the night sky is full of annoying, just all over the place. You're going to see lines. Let me show you my screen right here. We'll start off with, oh, where'd you go, my friend? My star trail, the final. I think it came off of my originals, so let me open up the edit, originals, and okay, I've got the screen up. Let's hop over to my Mac. So when you're out in the night sky, and you're looking through the night and getting all of these lines. You're capturing, this is a capture from a long time ago where I was trying to capture just the Perseid meteor shower, and the settings were very low. No Milky Way in the sky. This is not about a Milky Way. The exposure is set much lower than I would have wanted to have it. But you can see the streaks that are happening through the night sky. And when you see these streaks coming through the sky, how do you know which ones are planes, which ones are satellites, and which ones are meteors? It's a very sad day when someone shows me the picture and says, I love this picture with all the meteors I have in here. I have actually 3 active meteors in my shot. And then, without hurting their feelings, I say, that's awesome. But in honesty, they have airplanes. And most of the time they have satellites and they don't realize it. So let's talk about the differences of what we're seeing here. We're going to go through them, and then we're going to break down how to get rid of them quickly. So it's just a quick tip on removing them using Lightroom or Photoshop. So hey guys, I'm so glad to be back. I really am. So it's a really cool feature to do every Wednesday and have you guys join me, and it's a blast. And I know that because of the workshops, I'm not going to be able to do live ones going forward, so there's going to be a lot of them that show up at 7 on Wednesday, but they're not going to be live. They're going to be pre-recorded, and it'll look like it's going to be a live, but I'm going to do my best to make the camera footage even better, everything stronger, and it's going to be a lot more polished, but it's just not as much fun because we can't interact back and forth. Those of you who are new to Milky Way Wednesday, if you have any questions for me as I'm going through this, just hit me in all caps. It's not inappropriate here on Milky Way Wednesday to type in all caps, so when you want me to make sure I don't miss anything and see it right here on the chat, make sure it's all caps. And I know, oh, that's a big question. That's not just people chatting with each other. So awesome. So let me pull up. I'm going to go over here to my iPad because as I go through these today, I want to feature, oh, please go away. I want to feature something that all of you should be a part of if you're a Milky Way photographer. And we have a lot of people here with me right now that are, come on, Milky Way photographers that are actual writers for MilkyWayPhotographers.com. And so I want to feature this as I go through today so that I help you guys know that this exists and that you will want to join me. Join me out here. Let me close some of my other windows before I flip over to you guys. And close, and close, and good. There we go. So let me flip over my Mac screen, and you guys can see my iPad. So this is MilkyWayPhotographers.com. And the writers on here are very enthusiastic, stoked to write and talk about Milky Way. And so if you guys have any time to read these articles, one thing that I'm really liking that Kirk is doing, that these guys are all putting in effort for, is a Monday motivation. And this week was Alan Dyer with The Amazing Sky. And great articles. Let's see. Rhonda is right here. She's second right now. Let's pull out a little bit. You can't see it on the iPad. It gets cut, but you see the trophies right here. She's second place right now with 13 achievements. And what are those achievements? Those achievements are actual Milky Way shots that have been taken between 2018 and 2019. And there's a list of them on here. And I'm going to be updating how this list looks so that you can know where they are. So join us on MilkyWayPhotographers.com and earn your way from beginner Milky Way photographer through amateur, novice, veteran, and then master. It says 30 plus achievements on here. I think I'm changing it to 35. But how close was the leader, which is Shelby Diamond Star, which is Mary Beth, and she has 25. So she is on her way to getting 35 achievements and getting that master Milky Way rank. So let's go out and let's talk about what you see. So I'm going to pull up my favorite tool for writing and sharing and teaching. And while I do that, I'm going to flip over to my screen here and show you guys what we're looking at. Zoom in more, please. That just zoomed entirely out. Okay, let's just go it this way. 1/16. No. 1/16. Nope. Oh, you are fighting me, Lightroom. And okay, I'll use my mouse. Fine. 1/16. I want it to go down to 8:1. I want to zoom in. There we go. Now we're going to see all of the problems. So everyone here most likely understands. Veronica says, I need to get busy. She's going to get her master Milky Way rank. So yes, do it. Awesome. And Rhonda, you're going to catch up to Mary Beth. No problem. So first example we've got here. I'm going to draw them, then we'll talk about them. I think you guys all in your head absolutely know what is what, and you can recognize it. The hardest one to recognize is the satellite. So let's look at this one. I'm going to draw it quickly. So there's an example there, and I just drawn it over here on my iPad. Now let's look at another image where we can see other ones. Let's zoom out. Same ones, move over. Okay, good. That's another good example of that one. Let's zoom in at it and look. Draw that. These are dead giveaways on which is which. Now let's get for some of the harder ones. Let's get to some of the harder ones. I went the wrong way on my scroll wheel. And, okay. This one's a perfect example. And as you see in the image, as I'm scrolling from image to image, it gets easy. And that's one of the tips that we're going to talk about. So let's look at this one. And there it is. So I've drawn those three. And now let's find another example. Let's zoom out, look, and looking. Scrolling through, a lot of activity going through the night sky, and we will get to this example right here. Boom. So now we've got something that's a little different. Oh, it's really hard to draw and make it look the way I want. See, I want it to be a pressure pen, but it's actually harder on this. That's not the best way to draw it right here, but you got the idea roughly. So let's talk about this. Which one's a plane? Which one's a satellite? And which one is a meteor? You guys probably have the idea already in your head, and I can't get immediate responses. As I say something here, 30 seconds, you hear it, and I can't just go, hey, which one's this one? Which one's this one? And then point to it with my mouse. And so that's not going to help anyone if I point. So just looking at this one, let's go to this one. Let's circle this one right here. That and this is a plane. And almost everyone here has never shown me a meteor in their Milky Way shot that was a plane. A plane is easy to understand. Okay, that's obviously a plane. As you zoom out and I go to any one of these other frames, you're going to practically see a plane because it happens so often. Right there's a satellite, and keep going back. Here's a plane. So the dead giveaways, color in the line. Color in the line's dead giveaway. That could be a meteor or it could be a plane. But when the line has dots and it's consistently thick, That's definitely a plane. The dots that you see are the plane flashing, as you got the body of the fuselage, you have the wings. It looks roughly like that. Okay, I've been on a plane. I can do this. I just was on a plane. You can see how the wings go out, something like that. And they have the lights that are flashing. Let me draw them in the orange. They have the lights, and it might even just be, honestly, at the ends of each wingtip. And as those go and they flash, they show up. Sometimes on the angle like this, you don't see both wings. It's just the way that the plane is flying overhead. You don't see both wings as you see them on this one. So they have solid white lights, and they also have the flashing lights. And the solid white lights draw this line, and then they have the flashing light on one side. And you might not see the other side just because of the way the plane is positioned, and it's blocked by something. Something is blocking it. So good morning from Australia, Stanza. Awesome. I'm glad we got some Australians in here because I can't stop watching Australian-themed Netflix shows, and I want to go to Australia. I've been wanting to go to Australia since I've fallen in love with carnivorous plants, so I can't wait to get out there for that Milky Way sky. Sorry it's going into your winter, but I'm so stoked to get into our summer sometime soon. Ooh, I'm so ready. So planes, easy. Easy to recognize planes. Easy to say, okay, that's a plane. That's a plane. But then sometimes, my phone is near my mic. Sometimes you get something that looks like this. It's short, it's sweet, and that looks just like a meteor. In fact, let me go back a few frames. That looks exactly like a meteor. But what is it? Because I have multiple frames captured, I can do this and see the motion in the sky and see how things are going across it. You see this one right there and see this one right there? Those are our satellites. And how do we know that they're satellites? We know because on one end to the other, it's uniformly white and uniformly thick. So when we go back to my drawing, you can see how the thickness here and the thickness here are identical. If it was going to be a meteor, this has to taper. If it doesn't taper at one end or the other, it's not a meteor. And why would it taper on one end but not the other sometimes? A meteor can come in and then fizzle out, and that fizzles out and tapers. But when you captured, it was already bright. Your shutter began at this point. It entered somewhere up here, and it's already capturing that white light. And so then you see just the beginning of white, and then you see it taper off. If you have a short enough shutter, you might actually capture a meteor, like a really short shutter. You might capture only the hot part of the meteor and none of the tapering ends. And that's very rare. Most likely you will not have a shutter that short when you capture a meteor. You're going to see a taper on both ends or on one end or the other. So let's look at my example of a meteor. It was way over here. See all the satellites going through the sky and plane. Is it this red one? Yeah, I already marked it red. I was smart enough to do that and then forgot that I did it. Right here, you can see the tapering edge and the tapering edge, and you get a little bit of green because a lot of you burn off, you'll see some green as the iron and other elements in the rock that is the meteorite. It's not a meteorite unless it hits the ground. It's a meteor. On the meteor, this is burning up in our atmosphere and casting off a color. And you can see the tapering end and the tapering end. Looking at that compared to, say, this satellite, you see right away the difference. You can tell the difference between the two. Let's look at another meteor. This one is going behind a rock, and I'm only seeing one tapering edge, and it's going constant. Look how thick this is. Imagine if right here it started and went down to here. It would be a little difficult to recognize whether it was a satellite or a meteor, save it wasn't for that color. The color and how thick it is tells me it's a meteor. That's closer than a satellite. Look at all the satellite examples. Very thin line going across this night sky. You guys probably have a hard time seeing this. Let me zoom in again. That thin line going across the night sky is just obviously a satellite and not very thick. So when you compare that to this one, you can see how it just is a lot thicker and most likely a meteor. So when you look at these crazy lines and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I got a meteor, double check, zoom in on that and go, wait a sec. That stream is completely white. It starts here at that thickness, it ends here at that thickness. Let me look at other frames around it. Oh, I can see where the trajectory of that satellite was like this, and it was going through the night sky. That's a satellite. If you see it all by itself, it zooms in, and it happens, and it's like, oh yeah, Meteor. Definitely Meteor. What's IP, everyone? Internet protocol. So you guys are talking about the IP over here. Interesting stuff. I'm not sure where that got brought up, but check it out. So the Meteor is a tapered edge. Now, one thing I wondered if people would bring up and ask about was an iridium flare. An iridium flare can happen, but not so much anymore. In fact, not at all. There's only a few of the iridium satellites that cause these iridium flares. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me show you some pictures. You can see them right here. This is a satellite in the night sky, and as it travels across the sky, it will cause a flare-up as the reflective surface of the iridium metal on there casts the light of the sun and reflects. It flares up and then goes away, so you'll get this big bulbous. It'll start off thin and go bulbous and then go thin again. And so that's an iridium flare, and we cannot catch that anymore. There's no chance to get that anymore, because the iridium next satellites that have gone up, they unfortunately do not have flares that will happen. As you can see clarified here by earthsky.org, you can read all about it. And bottom line, the final launch of Iridium 10 Iridium Next satellites is targeted for that. The Iridium Next satellites do not flare. So these awesome iridium flares that people were collecting like they were some sort of, they're collecting like baseball cards and stamps, because they were different satellites that would cause them. So you can see I got an iridium flare from Iridium 59. I got the iridium flare from, let's see, anyone else declare which one that they were looking at? Iridium flare. This one doesn't actually say which iridium flare that was. It looks a lot like a meteor. In fact, it kind of looks a lot like my meteor that's here. But being that this is the Perseid meteor shower, I was fairly confident in stating that this was a meteor. And showing my Faroe Islands every time I go back. And look at that flare up. That's insane. That's the thing that if you caught, you would wonder, what on earth is that? And that's an iridium flare of a satellite, and that's just not possible anymore. But those are the things that you need to recognize in the night sky and clean them out of your images. Let me show you. Are they all being locked by this? There we go. So if you look at my final, here's my final image with all of my meteors connected together. When I went through this process and I was doing it before I edited out all of these different flights of planes, flights of satellites, because I wanted to blend them all together and only get meteorites, I had to take these frames and clean them up. Having to clean them up can be very, very easy. And sometimes people don't go into Photoshop because they don't want to. I haven't talked about it yet, but this one right here, you got to know that this one's so obviously a plane. But most people know that and recognize that right off the bat. When they're narrow or really far off in the distance, it sometimes can be hard to tell. So let's talk about how we clean them up. Let's do it in Lightroom first. And we are way back here. So Lightroom, let's pick one of these small satellites. And how would we clean this up? You would use the tool in the Develop module. Click on Develop, and down here, you're going to see underneath my picture. In fact, let me get my picture out of your guys' way. Bring Aaron up higher so you can see me. Cool. So now, this right here, underneath me, you have this tool, which is called the, was it spot tool? What is it? Spot removal. Q. Spot removal. Spot removal. It says no data. Did we just get disconnected? Typo. What's up? There's having tapering on both ends. Okay. Oh, cool. I was just seeing a weird stream issue. Hopefully my internet's working and you guys all have access to everything right now. So let's clean this up using the spot tool. It's very simple using this guy. If you use your wheel on your mouse, you can zoom it out and get bigger, or you can get smaller. The recommendation is go as big as you need to go to cover it to completely overlap it. What I'm talking about is, look at my pen here. So if I grab this blue marker and I want to draw over this blue line, That's a little difficult to do if I had a very thin blue marker. See how thin that is? I'm covering over it and I'm going off of it. It's because my line is doing this as I go over. I'm not perfect in drawing a straight line. So what I would do is I would make sure that I have a nice big brush that when I go up and down a little bit, basically my circle is wavering up or down just a little bit. It doesn't matter, it still covers it, because inside that circle, I'm still covering the white line that I'm trying to paint over. So let's go back in here and I'm gonna draw much bigger. Let's undo this. I don't care about that. I'm just gonna go a little bit bigger and then I'm gonna draw a line over it. See? Now it's picking from a different area, and wherever this thing is, it's cloning. See how it's changing the stars inside there? If I go to something like an obvious big blue star, that might be apparent later that this blue star has been duplicated. So I tend to pick something more boring like this section without a lot of stars. And then when I zoom out and I click off the tool, you can see how it's not there anymore. Let's go back in that. There's the line. That's funny. It's just showing, okay, here's the line and there. Here's the line and gone. Simple. You don't have to go into Photoshop. You can use the spot removal really fast to get rid of them. What about something very big like this obnoxious plane? Now am I starting to have trouble with this? Nope. I do need to be careful about touching this rock though. If I touch the rock, I'm going to overlap that rock and take some off. So I'm going to try and go with a thinner line, be more careful, and then once I get past it, I don't have to care anymore. And now it's grabbed from there. I think that's a good choice. Let's stick off. Yeah, that's fine. But as you can see, you get a little streakiness. You get a little bit of a pattern. Why are you getting that pattern? So let me click on the spot tool again and click on here and see what's going on. So as I'm getting those funny lines, it's because of the amount of, it's because of that thin part that has been taken another noise pattern. The noise pattern is irregular compared to the noise pattern right there, and so it's causing it to stand out just a little bit. And so how can I quickly fix that? Well, I'm going to click off this, click back on, and I'm going to do a new one, and I'm just going to go like this. And with that kind of more irregular shape, it kind of breaks it up. And it doesn't have a straight line. We notice straight lines a lot more than we will random lines. If you see a straight line of this noise pattern versus that noise pattern, you're going to pick it out probably pretty easily with your eye. But with that little zigzag, I can't even tell where it was. Was it on this rock or was it up on here on this rock? So now that's gone. Plain gone. Boom. And that spot tool is great. It really only has a few functionalities of going big and then choosing where you want it to pull from. See how I'm grabbing some of the rock? That would be a bad idea to pull from there. I don't want to pull from the top of these rocks. I don't want to pull from another part of the sky that's so different in color. I want to keep it close. See how the gradient is changing just slightly? It's bluer up here, but then back down here, it gets a little bit of the same color. So you just want to pull from the same area, especially if you do something giant like that. I'm drawing a bunch of them now, just for fun. So you can see how that completely goes away, nice and simple. So let's grab one of our annoying plain ones, and let's go to that crazy one that's up in the top corner. Was it here? Was it here? Here? Here, was it during this meteor? Nope. There's the one that has the double wings. This is the beginning. It was. There's the beginning. It goes off the page even. Let's take this one into Photoshop and let's edit there. So it's edit in Adobe Photoshop. Oh no, cancel. I don't want to open this up in Adobe Photoshop 2019. Is that the only option? Even though I have Photoshop open, it looks like I am going to open it up in the new one. I have Photoshop 2018 as well. So you get this pop-up, edit a copy, edit original with Lightroom adjustments. I always choose edit a copy with the Lightroom adjustments so that all the work that I've already done on the image, and now I'm going to go in and polish it in Photoshop. I just say, okay, open it up in Photoshop, edit a copy, boom. Still good, Aaron. Disappointed in you since you shaved though. I know, man, but I'm growing it back. It's not so terrible having to grow something back like this, you know? I can make it more perfect too, because I had that weird knobbiness down here, and so I'm going to have a nice, brilliant, hideous beard soon enough. Use click shift and click for a straight line selection. That's a great tip. Let's go for that. Let's show it so that I don't miss out on that, because instead of having to hold your hand and make sure you do it perfectly, let me show you real quick what Ty Hardison is pointing out. So you can go like this and then use a click while you're holding shift, and it'll hold that line straight whether I go up or down. But it's just at an angle like that, it can be hard. So what if you want to do, so shift and click straight up over there, but then at the angle, it doesn't quite work at an angle. It kind of keeps the diagonal for you. It's funny about how it does it. So if you're going in a diagonal, click once, hold down shift, and then do that diagonal. It doesn't really straighten it for you. You'd just be fine freehanding it. It's when you do have the chance that you can keep it straight, then you can shift click while doing it and do a straight line, a perfect straight line, no matter where you go up and down. Oops, that's a bad example. Holding down shift. Oh, see, I didn't hold down shift first. There we go. Now it's a good example. I'm going up and down. Oh, I'm actually not showing you my screen. Doesn't make it very good to show you that. So let me go back to this. See this line? This line's perfectly straight. I was freehanding it actually. If you do hold down shift, see how I'm going wobbly? If I hold down shift and then click, I'm going to go up or down. Or if I start with shift and go immediately right and left, it'll hold me to right and left. Whether I go up or down or not, it's going to hold me to right and left, which is useful if you have it at that angle. If you have to go at a 45-degree angle, holding down shift, let's see, I'm holding down shift first and I want to go down this way. I can't do that 45-degree angle. So it's something that you will have to freehand, but look at that. See, it just did it. It just recognized and kept it a little neater. I can still go off. I think it was just freehand. I think I was just freehanding it well enough. So hold down shift click and get that if it helps. You're not showing Lightroom, Amaki says. Dave's like, hey, come on. And I missed it. I was on the cam chat. Sorry about that. But let's go back over to Photoshop where we opened that up before we end this episode. It's 7:32, so we got to get out of here soon. So in Photoshop, the quick and easiest way, in my opinion, is still clone. But there's other ways that you can do it. I'm going to show you both. And the reason why I like clone is because I can control it a little bit more. Clone has an S for a hotkey. You have to remember to hit Alt and choose your area. And so I know that I want to pull from this area really close by. So I'm going to click here and then make this just a little bit bigger brush by using the hotkeys. Looks like I've got a brush that has too much of a soft round edge. So I'm going to change that. And now I got something firm. And it's going to use my clone selection area and then clone it. But see how big that brush is? I started painting in itself. So let's go a little smaller on the brush and then paint it over. Now, I'm getting a phone call. I don't want to get a phone call. That just cloned everywhere compared to where I have selected. And that I think is very easy to do. I just use S. But there's another way that you can do it by using this healing brush. And the healing brush up here allows you to choose content aware, proximity match, create a texture. I usually use content aware, but proximity match can be really nice. And all it does is you don't have to use Alt first. You don't have to choose your location. Just select the area that you want to go over. And you can see it the whole way as you're going. And once you let go, it's going to take everywhere that you did and use content aware fill. And it's going to pay attention to the content aware around it, and it fills it in. And see how it made that kind of janky little straight worm of no stars? I'm going to do this. And it got a little weird. It's working worse. So let's go back and try a different sized brush. And let's also do proximity match. How about you try proximity match this time? Boom. Paint it over. It's kind of okay. Oof, I don't like what it's doing there. See how it's getting some crunchiness on the side. So sometimes the healing brush isn't as easy as you want it to be. So one thing I would do is just kind of paint it on here and go up and down, get a little bit more. And then where you've got less stars showing up, sometimes you can fix it by painting over them, but it looks like it's not including stars whatsoever in any of my painting brush. It's just pulling in a color, and it's not pulling in the stars. And sometimes that's hit and miss. You guys don't want to learn Photoshop by every detail, so you don't have to worry about it as much as maybe going bigger brush. Let's zoom out. Go for a bigger brush. Let's pull up the healing brush and go for a bigger one and just say content aware fill, include some stars around there, and then boom. It already got rid of it. You probably won't even notice that that isn't perfect, but it still looks better than that narrow line. So a bigger brush on the healing brush can sometimes help it, as it overlaps stars as well, and then knows, okay, so you don't want me just to fill this in with the colors that I've been going over. It's going to fill in with other random lights and white stars. That's going to make it look more natural. But I still like the clone tool, because the clone tool is going to definitely pick up stars as it scribes through, and it's going to work really well for me. Patch tool can work well in that situation. Oh, cool. Another recommendation from Ty. Hi, Aaron. Hey, Jeff, James, RV Solar Homesteaders on the Road, Jeff Loitz. Hey, man. And Giacomo Bonfanti. Giacomo. I love that name. Giacomo. Okay, so those are quick and easy ways to get rid of this stuff. This is really, really quite annoying to have these stars in your way. And to work around them, it's easy just to stay in Lightroom for those of you who don't want to mess in Photoshop. And if you do mess in Photoshop, you can go through and fix them quickly with a clone or a healing brush, your choice, and the patch tool that Ty Hardison's bringing up. So these things are quick and easy to remember to get rid of. Now just go back. Let's review real quickly. What does everything look like? Oh, my reflector window has failed. No, yep, it's failed. So let's go ahead, pull this back on, and let's look at these different kinds of images. 4297 connection, and now I should have my iPad on here. Oh, it wanted to ask for the code, but it had the error again. So 4297, there we go. Yes, 4297. Thank you. All right. It is not responding right now. Maybe we won't be able to see this again, but that's okay. We won't see this again right here. We'll just go back to the examples that we had here. This is a plane. That's a satellite. We're obviously in a satellite right here. And where I wanted to go was down lower where the plane was. Plane with the dots. Satellite is a straight line that doesn't change from one end to the other. An actual meteor will look like this, where it will have one end that tapers off or the other end also tapers off, and will look like this. When you zoom out, you'll see the difference between these very quickly. So plane and satellite and satellite up in the corner. There was another satellite in here, I think, somewhere. We'll just go away with that. Plane, satellite, meteor. And when you see something like, where's my files again? Man, that file window just disappears on me every time. Here we go. When you see my final and you have other different versions of meteors, you got one that goes behind a rock, one that tapers off and barely shows up here. You've also got this one that kind of looks consistent the whole way. Let's zoom in on this guy. But as you zoom in, you can see where it gets faded on one end and faded on the other. It doesn't just stop abruptly. So different meteors have a little bit different taper, especially during a meteor shower like this. They'll all look very consistent. And so you will know when you have a meteor in there and not a satellite or a plane. Now planes, again, you guys have got planes down, but meteors, I see a lot of meteors in people's shots. So here we go. We got no questions popping up, not your Lightroom. We just see you, Aaron, and Namaki pointed that out too. You guys fixed it for me. Thank you so much. Let me scroll back and see if I missed any questions that were coming through here. All right, sweet. So before I go, I want to talk about the next week episode, I am going to be with the Southern Utah Workshop, doing Milky Way photography, and then we're heading off to the Nightscaper Conference. In fact, I think that Wednesday is the day that we catch up with the Nightscaper Conference, and our first night of it is, oh, you know what? I think that's right. Wednesday is the 1st of May, so I will be at the Nightscaper Conference, and potentially, I can get you guys some cool content from Milky Way Wednesday, so stay tuned for that. Look for it. It'll be showing up as upcoming video if I can do it. Pay attention on Wednesday. Look for it. Start by 7 p.m. Mountain Time, just like this one. And then the following week, I'll be back and I'll be here live. But we will have some days in the end of May where I'll be gone again. But we'll handle that when that time comes. So thanks, guys. Thanks so much for joining me again for Photog Adventures and talking about Milky Way photography. Just love hanging out with you guys again and glad to be back here. Talking about something else next week, we are going to spend some time in a future Milky Way Wednesday talking about planning and finding a location in an area you've never been before. And I want to talk about my experience of finding a place in Las Vegas. Having not been able to get out there and scout personally, I was able to find a spot that turned out beautifully just by using Google Earth and Google Maps and following the areas that I knew the light pollution wasn't going to be. And so I could target an area, find a spot, and we found some really cool rocks to light paint. So that was a fantastic night. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with me. Enjoy your week, and I will be back next Wednesday. I'm going to say it. I'm going to be back next Wednesday. We'll have a live. If I have to pre-record something during the day and then play it that night live, that'll be how it goes. But I'll have something for you next Wednesday. So, guys, take it easy. Have a good one. Great to be back, and see you next time.